Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today I want to talk about my very favorite class in the game. That's right, aircraft carriers. And if you detected a little bit of sarcasm in that intro, well, congratulations on your detective work. Obviously, they are not my favorite class. I don't really like them at all. But as long as they're going to remain part of the game, somebody needs to give advice on how to play them well, and that is my goal for today. To help me out, we've got gameplay courtesy of KrAnKy KrAkA. He is playing the Tier 7 Soviet aircraft carrier Pobeda, and KrAnKy himself is one of the best players in this entire game. Last I knew, his win rate was 78%, and you can look at that astronomically high number and say, ah yes, well it must be inflated by division play. And KrAnKy does play in divisions a lot. In fact, I've played in a division with him before. But even if divisioning does inflate your win rate artificially, a lot of that is still KrAnKy's own skill. And I think those numbers speak for themselves, and I think his gameplay here will speak for itself. This is a bit of an unusual community replay for me in the sense that KrAnKy has already covered this game on his own channel, where he walked through his thought process as he played. So if you want to see that, I will leave a link to it in the description. It's well worth watching. But if not, I'm going to try to elucidate some tips and strategies for you that you can use in your aircraft carrier gameplay if you enjoy the class and perhaps find yourself struggling to get excellent games. This is an excellent game on KrAnKy's part. And you'll notice the very first thing he's doing is searching for the enemy destroyer. And that, if you're playing an aircraft carrier, is going to be your number one goal. Your number one job in a CV is to spot and deal damage to destroyers, whether you deal damage to them directly with your plane ordnance, or whether you spot them for your teammates to shoot at. Either way, that's your number one priority, because even with the presence of a CV in a game, destroyers are still the unit that wins games, primarily because of their stealth and their ability to play the objectives. So you can see KrAnKy here spawned with the Hivehound, who he's in a division with, on the Charlie flank of this map, and he initially opened the game by searching for the Shimakaze. When he discovered the Shima was not, in fact, in the Charlie cap circle, he went around those islands over there to find the Shima. But since the Shima is not exactly, at the moment, a huge threat to the capture circle, he's going to go for this Cleveland right now, dropping some torpedoes at the enemy cruiser, who is busy shelling the Hivehound in his Jean Bar and undoubtedly burning him down. You'll notice also, and this isn't something that should be understated, that KrAnKy, every time the planes come back to his CV, he opens up the map and plots a course on the autopilot. You can see that he's plotted a course straight for the back of the map right now. Why? Well, because that Cleveland is moving in, and you can see the orange circle on the minimap, which the Cleveland is only just now nosing into. That, of course, represents his detectability range by sea, and anytime you see ships moving closer to that circle, you want to move your CV away. You don't want to get caught at the last minute, spotted, where the enemies can shoot at you and deal damage, because it's going to be very hard for you to deal damage to them and sink them in a pinch. Here, KrAnKy does one of, I think, the first bum drops in this game, where initially he lines up the Shima and doesn't quite get him, but on the second drop he comes back around and he's able to hit the guy for a little bit more damage. He's done 13,000 damage so far, by the way. Pretty much all of it inflicted on the Shima, some of it on the Cleveland. He's not going to end this game with a particularly impressive damage number in and of itself, but he is going to end the game with a particularly high XP number. And as I've said many times before, your raw damage at the end of the game is not necessarily an indication of how well you've done. A better indication is how much XP you acquire. And as far as acquiring XP via doing damage, that XP is doled out based on the percentage of a ship's HP you remove. And of course, if you remove 50% of the HP from a destroyer, that is worth as much as removing 50% of the HP of a battleship. The difference is one number at the end of things is bigger than the other. But since this is the case, and it's easier to get damage on destroyers, that should tell you, just in terms of the way XP is doled out, that destroyers are your #1 priority target. Nevertheless, that Shimakaze becomes less of a priority as the Cleveland and the battleship, whose name I did not catch, move into the Charlie Cap. We can see the blue team, at least for now, has Alpha and Bravo secured, but KrAnKy certainly wants to stop the 2 enemy ships from taking the Charlie Cap, and his division mate, the Hivehound, has been dispatched, probably by that Cleveland's reign of HE spam. So he's going to continue attacking these ships inside of the Charlie Cap and continue to reset them. The friendly Shimakaze right there, hiding behind an island, comes in clutch with that torpedo hit against the Cleveland, taking him out, making KrAnKy's job just a little bit easier. And here is the Massachusetts still inside of the cap. We absolutely want to reset him. So lining up the bomb drop, notice that he aims the line right into the Massachusetts superstructure. These high explosive bombs that skip across the water, they're pretty good. They have an excellent fire chance, and they do have pretty good penetration, but they're not going to penetrate the belt armor of battleships. So when you're aiming them, you do want to aim up a little bit higher so that you can actually get penetrations into the superstructure, or in some cases the upper belt armor. You can see that shot against the Montana was 6K, and he's got a fire burning, so it's more than that. Coming back with the torpedo bombers, this is something you probably also want to do in your CV, is cycle through your plane types, get used to using both of them. I've heard it told that the Soviet aircraft carriers are a little bit tricky, or people find them tricky to play because the torpedoes are so slow, but the torpedoes are outrageously effective, especially against battleships that aren't moving too much. We'll see whether this salvo of torpedoes connects with that Montana and takes him out. In fact, KrAnKy's so, yes, sure that the Montana is going to be taken out that he sets a course for the Charlie Cap. In the interim, Alpha has been taken by the Reds, Bravo is still held on by the Blues, and in part because of the bum drop against the Shimakaze earlier, KrAnKy's a little bit short on planes as he puts them up in the sky. That is one thing you may want to consider. You don't want to hang your planes around inside of the AA bubbles of multiple ships at the same time. So sometimes if you do miss a bum drop, it can be good to recall your squadron so as to save yourself from losing too many planes. KrAnKy obviously didn't do that, but I don't think he would disagree with that advice. For now, though, the odds are very much stacked against them. They're outnumbered 2-1, and there are still 3 enemy destroyers left alive. So at the moment, it's KrAnKy's goal to kill these destroyers, and once again, he manages to do a bit of a bum drop right there, which just goes to speak to aircraft carrier drops not exactly being the easiest thing to get right every single time. Even very good players like KrAnKy here will make mistakes and will make bum drops. That's okay. Just put more planes in the air, keep on trying. As of now, though, it looks like the enemy Brandenburg is about to enter the Bravo Cap, and thanks in large part to KrAnKy's spotting, the enemy Shimakaze has gone down, reducing the destroyer count on the enemy team to 2, which is a good thing, and once again, primarily the goal here. The goal is always going to be to go after the destroyers first, but if there are immediate threats to a cap circle, like this Brandenburg, then obviously go for them, especially when you're in a situation where you've got 2 friendly ships left alive, one of which is yourself, and a destroyer versus 4 enemy ships. You can't afford for the enemy team to take caps, and in fact, you can't even afford for only 1 cap to be held by your team, which is why KrAnKy finds himself sailing toward Charlie. There are no enemy ships in the area, as far as we can tell, based on the last known locations of all the rest of the enemy ships, Both destroyers are somewhere over here on this side of the map, and so is the last remaining enemy battleship. In fact, there is one of the destroyers right now. KrAnKy's sort of scraping the dregs with these planes here as he goes in for this drop, leads the destroyer very, very well, and takes him out. That reduces the number to 1. These destroyers are, in my opinion, I don't know whether KrAnKy would agree with this, quite easy to hit with these skip bombs, and these skip bombs are outrageously effective against them. At least I think so. Perhaps not as effective as KrAnKy's beloved Lexington's dive bombers. I don't think anything can be quite as effective as those nuclear-dropped HE bombs, but nonetheless, the skip bombers are effective. Now what's the situation as KrAnKy approaches Charlie? The enemy aircraft carrier is approaching Bravo, and once again, this becomes KrAnKy's #1 priority. I suppose you could say that your #2 priority in aircraft carriers is to protect the cap circles behind finding the destroyers and sinking them. And protecting the cap circles can include dropping battleships, cruisers, or aircraft carriers that are inside of the cap circles. Once again, as I said, the friendly blue team here cannot afford to allow that enemy CV to capture the Bravo cap. KrAnKy right now is working on Charlie, and it looks like he's going to be able to take it uncontested, but it's not going to be as valuable if he trades Bravo for Charlie, and the enemy team gets a 2-cap advantage. The blue team is still ahead on points thanks to their early cap control, but that could quickly change. There he hits the enemy Pobeda for 6k. He's up to 62,000 damage. Once again, as I say, the damage total at the end of this game is not going to be impressive in and of itself, but 9 defender ribbons indicates that KrAnKy is doing the damage in the right places. That is the capture circles. As always, the objectives in a domination mode game are the most important. They're more important than just sinking ships in an isolated fashion. You want to make sure you sink the ships that count. And KrAnKy is conducting a campaign of harassment on this CV, despite the fact that he really doesn't have that many planes to throw up in the air. He wants that CV out of the Bravo cap circle. He wants that CV to move in order to avoid getting hit by his ordnance, and that's exactly what the CV is doing before even finishing his capture of Bravo. And as the CV exits, that means Bravo is going to remain in blue hands, and blue is going to start accruing points from it once more, which is a good thing, because the enemy has just overtaken them, albeit not by much. And by now, you'll surely have noticed that KrAnKy is the last person left alive on his team in his aircraft carrier versus 3 enemy ships, one of which is the enemy aircraft carrier, who he's currently dropping. And you can see that the bombs, not a lot of effect when only 2 of them hit the side of that carrier, but more importantly, we've got the last remaining enemy destroyer moving into Bravo. And again, the blue team is ahead on points by exactly 4 points. So if the enemy destroyer is allowed to capture Bravo, then his team is going to start accruing points from that, and that is going to spell disaster for KrAnKy's chances of winning this game. So once again, he goes in for a strike against the enemy destroyer. This particular enemy destroyer, who he unfortunately misses, doesn't quite give enough lead on the skip bombs, but this particular enemy destroyer was spotted in part thanks to him not turning off the anti-aircraft guns on his ship. So this is something that was a new feature that was added to the game during this past update. It's something you'll want to take advantage of if you're a destroyer and there are CVs in your game. All you have to do is open up the quick command wheel, and there is now an option to toggle your anti-aircraft guns on or off. If you turn them off, it means that they're not going to shoot at the CV's planes, and therefore it's going to be harder for the CV to find you in your destroyer. This has been part of the game since the update drop, and every time I play CVs, I have yet to see a destroyer who has actually turned off their AA. This is crucial for you. In any case, though, the enemy Shimakaze spotted KrAnKy's CV, and instead of remaining inside of the Bravo cap, which would possibly have given his team a chance to win, he has instead elected to sail out of it and attempt to shoot KrAnKy, and as you can see, didn't really work out well for him. KrAnKy takes him out for his second kill of the game. He's up to 71,000 damage done, and there are less than 15 seconds left to go in the battle. Blue team is ahead on points, and the victory has been achieved at this point. So, I think a very good game on KrAnKy's part here, despite that damage total being not exactly overwhelming, only 71,000 damage. Nevertheless, KrAnKy did what he needed to do to win, which included primarily going after the destroyers, and as a result, he has 3,000 XP, an excellent result to be sure in any CV. If you want to check out KrAnKy's take on this game, I left a link to that video in the description. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up before you go, and if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, consider doing so. Also, if you do go over to KrAnKy's channel, consider subscribing to him, because as I said, he is a great player, and there is a lot that you can learn from him. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.